Here is episode 7 of Graduating Without a Plan. The past 48 hours for me has been so crazy. Okay. So first of all, my dog almost died. If you know my dog, Winnie, little Winnie, you know that she is the love of my life, the center of my universe. She is everything to me, right? She is this little white Bichon Poo, crusty white dog, as they like to call it these days. She's a biter. She don't like people. It's like the lore in my home that if you come to my house, like Winnie will bite you if you touch her. So like just don't touch her. And if you do somehow develop a relationship with her, it's like one in literally, I think there's only 5 people in the world she lets pet her. Anyway, so the point is this dog is usually very feisty, very lively. Like 48 hours ago, she just stopped eating. She stopped eating, she stopped drinking, she was not moving, she was having trouble walking, she was weak. We were like, what the frick, right? So we bring her to the vet, naturally. Vet's like, I don't see anything wrong with it. Because she had just gotten a wellness check. I love how I'm just diving right into this episode. She had just got a wellness check a couple weeks ago. Everything was fine. All her blood work came back. So nothing's wrong, right? She allegedly had some Lyme titers, but she had had Lyme disease before. So they were like, it could just be like, a flare-up or relapse, whatever. Or like, it's just always in your system. It always comes up that you have it now since she's had it before, which I understand. So first doctor had no idea. We take her to the emergency vet that night because she's like really not doing well. We're like, oh my gosh, she's barely moving, like we're thinking, like I'm checking her breathing, making sure she's still alive, bringing the emergency vet. They're like, let's do a full body scan on her, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, what do you mean a full body scan? Like, are her lungs clear? And they're like, yeah. And we're like, is her heart sound okay? Yeah. So I'm like, so what are you scanning for? They're like, well, what if she has a muscular issue? I'm like, well, she's not in pain. Like, she's not like, ouch, when you touch her. You know what? That, no sense, right? Yeah. My mom just walked in. Mom, I'm recording a podcast. Just so you know. We're in the middle of the, so anyway. Continuing. Oh no, my ADHD, my brain got caught off track. I'm like, where was I? Hey, where was I? So anyway, whole other day goes by, freaking out. My dad, who's naturally dramatic anyway, the dog is also the love of his life. He's basically the reason that we're all still together. She's still the reason we're all still together as a family at this point. Because she's been such a, she's like a, when someone's mad at each other and no one's speaking. We're all just, you just got in a fight. You're just like, rah, 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 and then no one's talking. And it's like this awkward silence. And then someone goes, oh, come here, Winnie. And then we all go, yeah, come here, Winnie. And it's like, she's like the mediator, whatever. So she keeps this family together. She's the glue of this family. My dad, is just surrendering. He's like, she's going, she's gonna die, like that, But he's also been saying that about himself for the past 35 years. He's like, look at the clock. I'm at the end of my life. He always says when I'm at the 4th quarter of my life. He's been at the 4th quarter since he was like 40 years old. Like, come on, father. So anyway, we bring her to the emergency vet one more time, just to see. My mom had given her some gabapentin because that was recommended for any pain she may be having. Because they were like, maybe she has gastritis, which is like just a stomach pain, I guess, from, if they eat something or whatever. So we gave her this gabapentin, and she was like, so we're thinking she's dying. We're like, she's not even looking at us. She's dying. Bring her to the doctor. By the time we get there, they're like, yeah, she's not dehydrated. If she eats within the next day, like she'll be. We're like, but why is she acting like this? And they're like, well, she's drugged now. A couple hours go by. Drugs seem to wear off. She's peppy again. She's back to I guess her stomach issues alleviated. And on the way home, we went through the McDonald's drive-thru, and she ate some fries. So I think she's doing better. Right now, she's sitting in her cage. She's still tired. She still looks like a little under the weather, but definitely improved. She ate this morning. She peed this morning. We're like, And also, again, I always give glory to God because I prayed for this. I had my TikTok followers praying for this. I had my church groups praying for this. We were all praying for this because Winnie was really on the edge. And she pulled through, and glory to God, I know that was him. And on top of that, Luke Hemmings, all the 5 Seconds of Summer members started putting out music, and that was all I needed to put me right over the edge this week. Right over the edge. I never really inquired. Okay, let's talk. I was not really a 5 Seconds of Summer girly. I was a One Direction girly. I liked 5 Seconds of Summer because they were associated with the One Direction and they went on tour with One Direction and they were like all funny and I would watch their interviews, but I never liked their music. Like I liked them, but I couldn't get down with a single one of their songs. Except like, what's that one? Like, my English love affair. But it was because it was about Gemma Style, right? So I was never a 5 Seconds of Summer girly. And then recently they all started putting out music. Like Luke Hemmings started putting out music. First of all, the man in eyeshadow, why are men not wearing eyeshadow? That's what I don't understand. Luke Hemmings in eyeshadow literally put me over the edge. Put me over the edge. It looks so good. And do you remember in like 20 whatever when the Hunger Games first came out and like it was a style for a minute. I remember seeing in Teen Vogue that Maybelline was doing a whole thing about crazy eyeliner because of the Hunger Games, because they were trying to do like, oh, the capital style. And what was the designer? Lenny Kravitz, what was his name? The designer in Hunger Games, Lenny Kravitz, when Lenny Kravitz was wearing eyeliner in the Hunger Games, it changed the game. The guyliner, the term guyliner came out, the gold eyeshadow looked so good. Where did that go? Why did people stop doing that? I'm pretty sure Conan Gray does that too, which is also why I'm like, oh, I love Conan Gray. Like, where did the soft masculinity go? I know, like, there's this resurgence after Zach Bryan came out. I blame everything on Zach Bryan. Okay? Do I appreciate the country western aesthetic coming back? Yes. Do I appreciate the manly man coming back? Yes. Do I appreciate the traditional value? Sure. But, like, we just dropped the guyliner. And I'm disappointed about that. We could have had both. We could have had our Western man saddled up on a horse with some freaking bronze eyeliner. I'd be like, you know? I just want to know what happened. So that put me over the edge. That was all I needed to literally send me for the week. I can't believe I haven't talked about One Direction more on this podcast because I think my 12-year-old self would actually have like an arrhythmia. Oh, an irregular heartbeat. Well, maybe. I think I would have some type of attack if I knew that 10 years later, or longer than 10 years, more than 10 years later, 12 was more than 10 years, all these years later, that I had a podcast and I didn't talk about One Direction. Like, I don't think I could wrap my head around the fact at that time that One Direction would not be the center of my universe at 25 years old. At this point in my life, I actually thought that I would probably have met Harry Styles by now, married one of them, at least hooked up. Right? I thought that by now, by age 25, I at least would have been spotted in the crowd at a One Direction concert, pulled backstage, had a fanfic moment, and like gotten pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, I thought I would have been pregnant by one of the One Direction members by now, and it just hasn't happened. But it's just crazy when you think how influential they were in your life at that time. Like, does anybody ever think about how One Direction, and if you were a One Direction girl, you get it, and if you weren't, you weren't. I remember specifically being in the locker room one day in middle school, and everyone was talking about One Direction, and I didn't get it. Like, I was like, why is everyone in One Direction? Like, I didn't even know who they were. And this girl, I'll never forget, this girl, Kaylee, her name is, she said she was a big One Direction fan, and I said, what is it with One Direction? And, like, can you explain it to me? And she's like, just look them up on YouTube. Watch some interviews, and you will understand. And she walked away. Okay. I went home. First thing that came up was the You Got That One Thing music video. And then like the behind the scenes from that. And she was right. I don't know what it was. I don't know what like experimental scientific chemical like I think of the psychology around this all the time. What it was that really made One Direction so infatuating to young girls. Because, yeah, they were, like, cute, but there's, like, a ton of cute guys. And, yeah, they were, like, kind of good singers, but were they even, you know? But something about them just enraptured me. And it became my life and my personality for the next 5 to 6 years. And the best part about it was because everybody was experiencing that at the same time. There was such a beautiful culture surrounding the One Direction fandom. Granted, some of it was really toxic, and some of it was a lot of older girls who had a lot more experience than us, because it was a range, right? You could be 12, but you could also be like 25. liking One Direction, because that was like, because the boys were like, I think Louis at the prime was like, he was like 23. Harry was 18 or something. So it was like that range of girls that thought that they could date one of them was large. So you'd hear like the stories of the girls like going into the concert and like the smut. You know what I mean? Like they were, you know, I was just like, I want to go with Harry to Disneyland. And they were like, I want to fuck Harry in the hotel. Like, wow, you know what I mean? So it was just, you were exposed to a lot of different, you know, a lot of different, the fanfics. The amount of like kinks, people just had crazy kinks. Like they were like, I want Harry to tie me up and I am actually his slave. And I actually was sold off into sexual slavery to Harry. Like, girl, that's just your fetish. Like, just keep that to you. Know what I mean? Like, people just unleashed their crazy kinks into the One Direction fandom and kind of played it off as if it was like a One Direction thing when it was really just, you got a fetish, you know? Whatever. So One Direction raised me in so many ways. How many friends I made through that band, like by being associated with that band. My best friend ever, Michelle, who I saw this week. Okay, I'll get into that in a second. But we had, you know, my Instagram handle at the time was Lily Tomlinson 5 because I had an alias because I was afraid to use my real name on the internet because I was afraid I was gonna get stalked. Meanwhile, now you guys know where I freaking live at this point. Whatever, the internet's a different place now. But you know what I mean? Like, we just had so much fun. We had so much fun with One Direction, and it was just a beautiful phase. But anyway, yeah, so I saw Michelle. So you guys know Michelle kind of because she was really one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because she has her own podcast called Laugh Often with Michelle. And we used to be on there all the time. And so, or I used to be on the episodes with her all the time. So I was just like, let me make my own, whatever. And she's just my best friend. She's just my best friend. And I needed it so bad this week because I was so emo for so many reasons. I mean, one, my dog wasn't feeling well. But even before that, my other best friend from Arizona. So it's like such a long story with him. I won't even get into it. But basically, he's from Arizona. He lived here for a while. We were like besties. And then he moved back to Arizona. And we're like one of those people who have like such a spiritual connection. Like, I just love him so unconditionally, and like he knows my brain so well. Like, I'll call him and he'll call me, and we just know each other's brains so well. It's like insane. And I hadn't seen him in like 3 years almost, because the last time he was back here was for his brother's graduation party, which was like 3 years ago. So I hadn't seen him, and he was leaving the same day that I was going to see Michelle, because Michelle lives in Jersey. So we meet kind of like halfway. And I was like, okay, Michelle, on my way, literally bawling in the car. Because I said goodbye to him, I said goodbye. I was like, because he was going on his flight or whatever. I was like, ah! I show up to Michelle. I'm like, hey, I haven't slept. I am crying. And she was like, ah. But then we got margaritas. And we got burrito bowls. And we got croissants. And we had such a lovely day. And you just see, like, friends like that, you don't have them often, where you truly feel rejuvenated after seeing them. Like, you have this, you just have like a tumultuous week or two, and then you see them and you're just like, oh, like, I feel so much better. And you don't always feel that. Sometimes you feel drained after you hang out with people. And, most of my friends, I mean, I have a good time with. I'm not going to get you wrong, but there's just those certain people that really, they just connect with your soul in such a unique and beautiful way, to the point where, like, on the way home, like, I'm driving home and I like tear up a little bit. I'm like praying, I'm thanking God. I'm like, thank you, Lord, that like I have a Michelle in my life. And I thank God that like I have a Sage in my life. And I thank God that like I have those people, because I actually just, I feel lonely a lot. I feel lonely a lot. And then people like that remind you that you don't need a lot of people, you just need the right ones, which really is crazy. It's whatever. I decided to be more mysterious, because on this podcast I think I come off as a little bit like, but I want to be more serious. Like, guys, like, actually, there's a lot of secrets about my life, and I'm not super communicative with my emotions, and I'm too cool to be upfront and open. Just kidding. I'm insane. Okay, so my sister asked me, she actually asked me if I was okay, because she apparently listened to my episode from a couple of weeks ago where I was crying about my grandma, and I was talking about Gabby Petito and women's trauma and whatever. And she calls me and she goes, oh, you know, I just heard your episode. Like, are you okay? And I was like, first of all, you're like 2 episodes behind. So, because I said, what are you talking about? And she's like, you know, you were crying. Oh, okay, that was 2 episodes ago. Stay updated. And I was like, why would you not think I was okay? And she's funny because she's kind of reserved. I mean, talking about being mysterious, she's kind of reserved. But I guess she thinks more than I give her credit for. You know, I think that she pays more attention than I realize. She's literally in Germany right now. Could you imagine living that life? Because she's engaged to a German guy, like a real German man. Could you imagine living that life where you're just casually like, I'm going to work remote for 3 weeks in Germany? What a life. Must be nice, kid. Okay. So that's where she is. But it, you know, it was funny though, because when she said that, like when she was saying, you know, okay, the point is, she was kind of bringing up, like, she was like, oh, well, you know, some of the things you say keep me up at night, or have said to me kept me up at night. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what have I done that was so crazy? And so we started reminiscing a bit. And I was like, yeah, I guess I have done something kind of crazy. Because, let me give some background. As we know, I had the autoimmune problem PANS. And I hate to be one of these girlies. Like, I don't want to be the person who says, oh, I understand everything. But I really do, because when you have brain inflammation, you experience so many symptoms. Because it went from everything to, I had depression, I had anxiety, I had an eating disorder, I had body dysmorphia. Oh my gosh, sorry. I had agoraphobia. And then I even like experienced what I would consider mania, because you can have an autoimmune induced mania or like a encephalitis induced mania. Because I definitely experienced mania a lot, or not a lot, but for, I would say 2 distinct periods during that time. But it wasn't really addressed as that, because they were like, well, she's not bipolar. And it wasn't until kind of recently, when I actually was doing psychology classes, that I saw that encephalitis-induced mania is a thing, because they were describing mania, like hypermania. And I also had a hypo. Like, I also was very depressed for long spurts of time, like deeply. But I wasn't bipolar, you know, so whatever. The point is, I was seeing these symptoms and saying, I really feel like I experienced this. And then after doing my own personal research, I saw that I probably did. So examples of that, as we know, are like my party phase. And I've talked about it several times before, how crazy that was, how irresponsible that was, but also just things like I drove to Staten Island for a party that a guy from Tinder invited me to. Staten Island, for reference, is about 2 hours away from my home. And it's not like an easy 2-hour drive. It's like through the city. It's not like a easy day. And I just got one of my friends to go, who is also, she was nuts too in her own special way. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, this guy invited me to a party. I'm going to go. I didn't know him well. It ended up being this really weird backyard gathering with like 10 of his close friends, and like his mom and dad were home, and the backyard, you know, a Staten Island backyard is basically a patio. So we were looking at each other, what are we doing here, you know? And he was such a weird guy. He was handsome, but he basically said to us, do you guys want to have a threesome? To my friend and I, we said no. And then he was like, okay, cool. I actually have another party to go to down the street. And he left. And you could look at that and say, oh, that's just kind of a fun, quirky experience. But what made it kind of nutty and manic, I would consider, was just because I really didn't think it through. I really didn't know this guy. And it was as simple as the day of. I was like, oh, let's just go. And, you know, my dad calls me. He goes, hey, what time are you coming home? Like, where are you? Thinking I'm at, say, my friend's house. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming home. I'll be home in an hour. Meanwhile, I'm 2 hours away. And not leaving soon. And I was in Staten Island, you know what I mean? Like, I never even told my dad I was in Staten Island. I was just there. So, you know, I drove to Tennessee for a Tinder date. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but this was a very significant part of my life and lore. This was also really on the whim. Well, it was a little bit less on the whim, given that I had matched with him on Tinder in like April of 2018. April, May, June, July. And then I went to Tennessee in July. So, still not that long of a time. But he was actually a really cute story. I met this guy. His name was Matt. Of course his name was Matt. I called him Montana Matt because he was in Montana for school. Like, when I matched with him, it said his location was in Montana. But his family lived in Tennessee, and they moved around a lot. And apparently we had matched because he had like a layover flight, and he was in New York for like, I don't know, 10 hours or something. And during that time, I guess we matched because he was in my radius. So we kind of, obviously, when we matched, we're like, okay, well, we're probably never going to meet because you're in Tennessee and I'm in, and I love Tennessee. People say Tennessee. You're in Nashville, Tennessee. But we were friends, and he was so cute. He was like my little dream man. And he had a lot of things, and we had like a lot in common, and a lot of things that I think at that time he represented a lot of what I wanted to be, because he was a writer, he traveled a lot, he was really granola and adventurous, and like all these things that I kind of felt like I was deep down and wanted to be, but he just had the balls to like get in the van and drive across country when I hadn't done that yet, you know? So anyway, yeah, so one day I was just going through it because I had a lot going on here at the time. I had just gone through a really rough situation with somebody, and I just, instead of, I don't know, calming down and maybe dealing with my emotions, I said, I'm driving to Tennessee this weekend, and that's what I did. Keep in mind, enabled by my mother. My mom came with me. But I think for her, when she saw this, she just saw me as a kid who had missed out a lot on my childhood because I was sick, and a lot of my high school experience. So she really went out of her way to kind of help me feel normal and help me do these things. Like, she was always encouraging me, like, go out with friends, like, and even like past the curfew, she said, doesn't matter, just go out, just have fun, you know, go out with the guys, have fun. My dad was not that way, but my mom was really into just helping me live my life, you know? So she came with me. She drove down to Tennessee with me. We met this guy and his family, and like, we just had a wonderful time. So we ended up kind of going out for, I guess, that summer. He came to visit here. But then my grandma died, and just there was a lot of unresolved issues that I ran away from that I never addressed, and I was going to college. And so I kind of just said, like, do you want to keep it kind of casual? Do you want to just kind of be friends, and when we see each other, we see each other? Because, like, what do we get? We're 18 years old. Like, are we going to start a serious relationship? I don't know, you know? And I think he took that as me, like, kind of breaking up with him when I was crazy about him. So it was really sad because he ended up kind of being... Sorry, Matt. He kind of ended up being a little bit of an asshole. Like, he really, really kicked me like a dog. You know, like, I was like a little puppy, like, please, I really love you. And he kept kicking me like a fucking dog. How embarrassing. But that lasted for well over 2 years that I kept kind of circling back to him. And then eventually it just kind of fizzled out. And it fizzled out because I made a TikTok about it. If you scroll down far enough on my TikTok, I made a TikTok about it, and it went during COVID, like 2021, and it went viral. And so then he hit me back up and was like, hey, why are people telling me that they're seeing me on TikTok? And I was like, yeah, I made a video about you and it went viral. You know, so like about this story. So we kind of had this really, every part of our story was really storybook and movie-like. It was just, you know, and I really thought, I'll tell you, I thought for years that I would literally be marrying someone else. Like, I would be walking down the aisle and hoping that he would call. You know what I mean? Like, that's how crazy I was about him. And part of it, I think, was like just anxiety and OCD related. Like, I was like obsessed. And also just being young. But I really thought I would never, ever get over him. And I kind of was forced to, because after that whole TikTok thing, he kind of went off the rail. He blocked me for a while, then unblocked me and hit me up. And I was like, why'd you block me? He's like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, I think the both of us really struggled with that relationship, like what could have been. So I have no idea where he is now. He moves around all the time. Last I heard, he like joined the military and was in Texas. And then he was posting pictures. His family, I think, moved to Maryland. Like, I don't even know what happened to this guy, but I think about him every so often. I hope, I kind of now, as an older person, am a little angry at him, because he was actually really mean to me sometimes, and I put up with it because I cared about him and because I was naive and didn't really understand. But I really didn't deserve that, I think. But also as an older person, I understand that he, I think, thought that I really rejected him, and I think he thought that I was in college, like, fucking around with all these guys, when I really wasn't. And then I think, you know, and I used to post, like, guys on my Snapchat story and stuff, but they were really my friends, and I think he thought maybe I was trying to make him jealous and hurt him. So it was all just being young, but at the end of the day, I don't regret going to Tennessee. I hope he's good. Like, I can't even talk about it. See, like, it kind of, like, it's, like, weird. It was just so surreal, the whole situation. But anyway, so that happened. Also, I cut my hair into a mullet one summer because I wanted free drinks, which I don't know if I talked about this either. Did I talk about any of this? These are all just stupid lore of mine. I had a good friend who there's this one summer we were hanging out in Port Jeff every single day. They had DJs at every bar before they got shut down. They don't do this anymore. It was a great summer, 2021. He was getting free drinks all the time. And I said to the bartender, why is he always getting free drinks? And they're like, he has a mullet, bro. Like, people would come up to him on the street and be like, nice mullet, bro. So I went and I got a mullet. And then I got free drinks all summer. I just went, brr, brr, you know? Is that manic, or is that just really fun? Like, was I just a really fun and cool, quirky person? You know what I mean? Like, who was I? I don't know. There was more things. I gotta think about it. Now that I'm thinking about it, there was just, I don't know, I was just a nut. But you ever think about things back when you were a kid? Were you a kid? I guess. I consider 18, 19 a kid. I was just so much more emotional. Things just hurt so much more. And so you make decisions that now you couldn't even picture making. But I give a lot of credit to I think 25, I'm finally feeling my brain being fully developed. And they say that that's a thing. I just have felt myself it's also because I'm on an antidepressant. But I think for sure, like, my brain has just mellowed out and things have changed. And you see it with dating, like, say this example with this guy, Matt, or whatever. You see it with dating, your priorities change, right? When I was younger, if a guy was cute, he was who I wanted to be with. If a guy was quirky and different and like Matt, like, oh, he was a granola, he was an adventurous, he was a photographer, like, that was my dream man, you know? Whereas now I think, well, who would be the father of my kids, theoretically, if I have? I don't even know if I want them, but if I did, could this guy raise my kids? Or does this guy have a job? Or does this guy want to live in the same state as I do, in the same place? Does he want to be close to his family? Is he okay with being close to mine? Like, these things just, your values and what you want just start to change. And so I think your decisions become less emotional and more practical. Like, when you break up with someone, it's not necessarily because you don't love them or because they cheated on you. It's because they It's because you're not going to marry them. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. So yeah, my sister was worried about me. Who knew? Who knew she worried about me? I went to see her the other day in the city for the first time in a while. I never go to the city because it's such a pain in the ass. Oh, getting to the city is such a pain in the ass. And for a while, I didn't take the train because I was afraid. But I take the train now. So we went on the train. And there was like some notable experiences. It was one of those things where who wants to go and spend money? So I just basically walked up and down the length of Manhattan. Like we walked all the way from Penn Station, which is like Midtown, to Chelsea, which is the lower west side or something like that, which is not close. And oh my gosh, the lady, down there's a lady by, what's that island? Little Island, the man-made island. There's that lady, she stands there with the fruit cups and the chamoy and the tajin. Bro, first of all, I went home immediately and ordered chamoy and tajin. But I was so proud of myself because I go up and I say, hola, quiero mangos con tajin e chamoy, por favor. And she goes, sí. And then she gets it for me. And then she put a little, because she saw I was a white person, so she only gave me a little bit of like spice. And I said, oh, quiero más. And she goes, sí. She puts more. And I said, gracias, mami. And she goes, oh, you know. I think when I walked, I felt so proud of myself. I'm like, this, at least I got this from dating all those Hispanics, right? I had a phase where I dated a lot of Hispanics. It wasn't on purpose. It was just, it happened because I always thought, first of all, half the time I thought that they were Italian people. I never even realized they were Hispanic, okay? Because growing up, I thought everyone was Italian. Half my cousins are like brown because they're Italian. Hear me out. Italian people and Hispanic people can look alike. Is this not true? Okay. There was a whole phase. Okay, one of the people I've dated is Jewish and Ecuadorian. When I first met him, I thought he was Italian. I just assumed he was Italian. He looked Italian. He was like mildly tan, but also looked white. So I was like, okay, you're Italian. He has a big nose. So I was like, Italian. I thought that for 4 years because we didn't date right away. We were friends for like a while. For 4 years, I thought he was Italian. I went home and I told my grandma. We had gone on a little date back in like 2019. I told my grandma, I went home and I said, yeah, I met this guy. He's really nice. And she goes, oh, like, let me see a picture. I showed her a picture. She goes, oh, nice Italian guy. I said, yeah, he's really, you know, whatever. I told the last name. We thought it was Italian. Yeah, or close enough. I fudged the name. So, so I thought he was a nice Italian guy for 4 years. Going forward, then we, you know, revisited things. We went out again later on in life. And I still thought he was Italian for the first month of us dating. And then I went over to his house and I see this man in the kitchen who is brown, like dark brown, like dark Hispanic, like Dominican looking. And I said, who is that? And he goes, my father. So I was like, what do you mean that's your father? I said, so is your mom Italian? He goes, no, my mom's Jewish. She's blonde and blue-eyed. So I said, wait, so you're not Italian? He goes, no, I'm Ecuadorian and Jewish. The way I was flabbergasted is an understatement. The other ones were authentically Hispanic. But like even my first crush of my life was a kid named Damian Rivera. Right? Like, even I was into it back then. But when I used to write about it in my diary, like I didn't know, right? You don't know race. You don't know what people are. So I was just like, I love how he's so tan and radiant. And like, he has these like really soft, beautiful brown eyes. And like, his hair is like so like thick and beautiful. So I just like Hispanic features. I also love chamoy. I also love tajin. Thank you for putting me onto that too, boys. So anyway, did I make any other notes for this episode? I don't know. Wait, what? Oh yeah, I don't know. I have no other notes. I actually really had no notes for this episode. I gave myself a brief, whatever. We'll keep it short today. I gotta go tend to my dog. I gotta go tend to the love of my life. All right, guys, so that's it. I'm gonna go on vacation next week. I think I'm going to Boston. Kind of exciting. We'll see how that goes. I go nowhere exciting. I hope Boston's fun. Boston seems fun because I only have like only a spurt of like 3 to 4 days. So it's like I'm not gonna go to freaking, you know, I don't know, California. Half the time I'll be spending in a flight. So I'm just going to Boston, and we're really gearing up for a busy singing season, which is exciting. So you're gonna be seeing me a lot on live streams if you watch me on TikTok. But yeah. But by the time you watch this, it's probably going up on Monday. Yeah, I'm gonna be in Boston, so it'll be fun. Okay, guys. All right. I love you. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.